Yeah, so what we've really wanted to do and what we feel is missing in the climbing industry is a hangboard podcast.
5 years ago, if somebody had said training specific podcast was a crazy idea, I would have agreed with them. But now we know that training specific podcasts can be even more specific. And that's why I'm super excited that Charlie and I are releasing this Too Much Time on My Hands podcast.
If you're following any other training podcast for climbing, delete them. This is the one that you want to pay attention to.
I'm really stoked on Steve's new podcast. I think it's going to be amazing, especially because it's so focused on hangboarding. You really don't need much more than a hangboard to get better at climbing.
Look, the world of climbing media is overwhelmed with guidebooks and sending and photos of climbing outside. But what I really want, what I really feel like what I need more of is hangboarding, man. I want the hangboard psych. I want to know how many seconds. I want to know how much weight. I want to know what the size of the hold. I need more hangboard content all the time, and I need it now.
One of the things that we're excited to talk about is yes, these sessions are hard, and yes, they're very painful for your fingers, but ways that you can stack specific painkillers to extend the session.
With such a focus on pure hangboard training, I'm encouraging my clients to just burn their shoes, because the reality is if your fingers are strong enough, you don't even need your feet.
We don't really talk about hangboarding very much, so this is a great time to really focus in on something that we don't know much about, and most people don't do it enough. Hangboarding. The secret of getting better at climbing is just focusing on pure grip strength. There's a huge difference between a 10-second hang and an 8-second hang.
Well, talking about specificity, one of the things that people worry about a lot with hangboarding is overtraining. But what we're starting to see is that training 5 or 6 or 7 days a week is actually maybe undertraining. Like they could go just a little bit harder and then break through to that next level.
Totally. I think it was a misstep that we haven't seen play out, and now we're really seeing the benefits of it.
Now, we had a question here this week from somebody about mid-sleep training. We've seen it with cyclists where they'll get up in the middle of the night and they'll do a little bit of cycling in place. Like how long are you talking? Like in the middle of the night, you wake up, you go to the hangboard. I know you can put it over the bed, whatever. But if you walk out, 30 minutes, an hour?
Yeah, I think reasonably you get to bed about midnight. You wake up at 1, train for a few hours,
Yep.
Back to bed, and then you're off to work.
There's no difference between 7-3, 5-3, 6-4. You're wrong. Charlie and Steve are going to break down why that's the case.
Excited about with the podcast is just to be able to take listener questions, be able to go, do deep dives into this stuff. We've looked at specific training, but when we look at training like going super, super specific, I think it's where people want to go.
And we've been talking about 7.3 for years. 7.4 seems to be actually a better protocol.
Well, and I think that sometimes people look at that and they're like, it's such a subtle difference. It's such a small amount of change, but over time, that extra second of rest is enormous.
We've been working with a bunch of different protocols, and we think 7 days a week, 3 times a day, max hangs is perfect.
So at Substrate, we've moved away from traditional training models, and now we're focusing exclusively on hangboarding. And I'm really loving the new 3-4-5 protocol, which is 3 seconds on, 45 minutes off. We've been having phenomenal results with that, and I'm really excited to see where we could take that sort of stuff.
Nobody knows finger training better than Steve Beckton. I'm pretty sure he was born with 6 fingers on one hand.
One of our episodes that I'm really excited about is about outfitting your home gym. And so what we're working on is all the hangboards that you can buy for your home gym. Yeah, so one podcast that we're really excited to share is talking about antagonistic training for hangboarding. And what we found is putting the hangboard on the other side of your doorway and hanging facing the other way is really helping for those elbows.
And for the most part, I think a lot of people just focus too much on technique work when they really should just be spending their time hangboarding.